balance, balance is an incredible thing. When there is balance, there is the ability to do things that would be an absolute disaster if any part of it got out of balance. Sometimes we do things just naturally and we take our balance for granted. On Friday, I got what was a thing that's called vertigo, which is something inside your inner ear that I don't understand, breaks off, and it basically makes it so you don't know which end's up. I tried to sit up in bed and would just face plant. I mean, it was the craziest thing and made me so sick. And even now, like as I'm talking, if I go from talking to this side of the room to this side of the room too quickly, it makes me like, well, things I took for absolute granted, just like being able to stand here and look around a room before. But balance is huge. And there are some things that require amazing balance. And there are other things that when it comes to the idea of, hey, you better pay attention to this, this matters, we can get into this mindset of going, I got this. I can handle this. But do we really? Can we really handle what we're getting into? Or are we going to end up with some things out of balance that are going to end up in us falling on our face? And relationships are like that, especially romantic relationships, okay? And whether you're here tonight, and you are in a relationship, or whether you wish you were in a relationship, or whether you're like, I got no interest in a relationship right now in my life, okay? There are some really important things that we need to consider when it comes to balance and what that looks like. Because relationships can be deceiving. Relationships can look really easy. Relationships can be something where you go, I got this. And I'm ready for something like love or being in love. And here we are at Valentine's Day, all right? This is something in our culture and actually all over the world. They do it in different ways and they celebrate in different ways, but Valentine's Day is one of those things that really brings a huge focus to this idea of love and being in love and falling in love. And there are so many. And I remember these days, even though they were like many, many years ago, when I was trying to fall in love. And it was one of those things where like, I gotta be romantic. And maybe if I write her a song, and maybe if I look her in her eyes and I just say, I love you, right? Maybe that will get me to where I want to be in a relationship. And it's one of those things where it may look easy. It may look like something that we don't need to put a whole lot of thought into. But when it comes to love, when it comes to a relationship, falling in love with someone, there are some things that we had better make sure are in balance, or we are going to fall all kinds of places other than love. And we're going to end up coming to a place of going, what happened? I tried so hard. I did my best. I was who I thought they wanted me to be. I did everything I was supposed to do, whatever it is. And it's so easy to get into this mindset of going, I got this. And I know that there's a bunch of you in the room who you feel real smooth. You feel like you got this. Like, hey, maybe it's because you've already got the girl, or you've already got the guy, or maybe it's because you're going, you know what, I don't have a girl or a guy, but I could anytime I want, right? And what I want to do tonight, here's what I want to do. Because this is one of those things, I've learned some things the hard way. I've made some decisions in my life when it came to my idea of what love was and what I understand love to be now. That you guys, I want to say some things tonight, and some of it you may be like, no, I'm not listening to that because that's going to be tough. But I want to encourage you right now, before we go any farther, I want to encourage you to open your heart to where God would lead you in this. Because we were created for relationship. We were created for intimacy with one another. But there is a design that God has for us. And that design will bring life, and it will bring love. And the opposite of God's design is going to bring heartache, it's going to bring frustration and confusion and loss. And so I'm going to pray for us real quick because I want to ask God to take us past just, love lines with Jeff. I want this to be something God speaks to each of us. So Heavenly Father, we come to you right now and we ask you to be right here among us. Because God, we want to hear from you. Get me out of the way, Lord. Give me your words. Give me your wisdom. And I pray that you would do the work in each one of our hearts, God, to settle for nothing less than your plan for us. God, I pray for the past relationships in this room, the current relationships in this room, and the future relationships that are represented in this room. And I pray that you would have your hand on them, that you would bring healing, that you would bring hope, that you would bring self-control, and God, that life would come out of our relationships. So we ask you to be here tonight. In Jesus' name, amen. There are 4 ways that we bond with people, all right? There's 4 ways we bond with people. First one, there's physical bonding. This involves visual attraction. It involves hormones. It involves stimuli. It involves physical touch, hugging, kissing, holding hands, sex. It involves all of that. I know I said sex. So, physical touch is part of how we bond with people. Then there's relational bonding. Relational bonding is where you meet over common interests, things that you enjoy together, reasons that you like being around someone. It can be that you feel really at ease. This is kind of the measure of emotional bonding. You feel at ease being yourself around somebody. There is that emotional bond, and it's so crucial. And we're going to talk about why in just a minute. Third way, something changed. Sorry, the last one was supposed to be, hold on. The last one, relational bonds. Yeah, that was real. I just did relational. Okay, sorry. Then you have emotional bonding. Now, emotional bonding is where you come to a place where you will share your heart with somebody. You'll share the things that bring you joy, that bring you pain, the stuff that you struggle with, the things that you're happy about, the joys in life. And when you're emotionally bonded with somebody, it's okay to not be okay. That is one of the measures of an emotional bond, is where you don't have to fake it. It's okay for you to not be okay. And you can share your heart with somebody. And the fourth one, there's spiritual bond. A spiritual bond is where you point one another toward God, where you hold each other accountable to the things of God, where you walk with one another in a pursuit of God. It's like-mindedness. It's a same pursuit. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're in the same place on that journey, or you have the identical kind of relationship with God as one another, but you are pursuing Jesus, and you're walking with one another in that pursuit of Jesus. Now, I want to ask you, of these 4 types of bonding, there are 3 that are absolutely crucial for there to be love in a relationship. And right now, we're going to talk outside of marriage. Okay, so for somebody who's not married, there are 3 of these things which are absolutely crucial to create love. Which ones do you think they are? Physical, relational. Okay, you want to give it a chance? You want to try? No, no, I forgot. Which one? Yeah. Spiritual, relational, and emotional. When you are bonded with someone spiritually, relationally, and emotionally, it will lead you to love. Now, sometimes that love, that bonding and that love isn't romantic. Sometimes these are the things that bond us to a friend, to someone that we're committed to someone that relates with us and is walking with us through life. But as you consider a relationship, a romantic relationship, one of the things that is so common and so easy for us to do is to go physical, relational, emotional, physical, relational, physical, relation, physical, physical bonding. This is why I'm in a relationship. This is what I want out of life. This is what's going to make me feel good. It's what's going to make me feel romantic and all of these things. And we get into this mindset where we get so wrapped up in the physical. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. But we get so wrapped up in the physical that the relational bonding, the emotional bonding, and the spiritual bonding get lost. And let me tell you, that it's when that happens, and there are millions and millions of examples all over the world, all the time, when that happens and you lose those other three types of bonding, and they get replaced by the physical, or the physical becomes the focus of the relationship, it is not love. Love is not found. Love is not discovered. Love is not flourishing. It dies. The relationship dies. And yet this is one of the most common things that happens in a relationship. But here, okay, so you may be going, all right, so Jeff, relational, emotional, and spiritual is really, is like, that creates love. But you've got to have physical. You got to. I know some of you guys are like, please say you got to have physical. Please say we get to have physical. And let me tell you this. When we have the emotional, relational, and spiritual bond, it will create love within a relationship like God intended. And there is this fear that, oh my gosh, no, we have to have the physical. You have to have that physical touch and that physical bonding. Let me just say this. No one in the history of man or womankind has ever died of sex deprivation. Just know that. No one has ever, no healthy relationship. I know, oh my gosh, he said it again. No healthy relationship outside of marriage, no healthy relationship has ever been destroyed due to lack of physical bonding. Consider that. As you consider a romantic relationship in your life, as you consider what to do with your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your future boyfriend or girlfriend, consider that no relationship outside of marriage, no relationship has ever been destroyed due to a lack of physical bonding. And yet, some of you have experienced it. Some of you know of people who have experienced it. The destruction of a relationship because physical bonding became the priority. Physical bonding became the only thing they were focused on. Physical bonding was part of what they gave up in a relationship, hoping for love, hoping that it would mean something, hoping that it would prove their love, and instead it destroyed it. And this is where we get into this idea of dating. And what is, when we get to Valentine's Day, it's like, oh, I gotta have a Valentine. I gotta be in a dating relationship. This is where it calls for balance. What is the balance going to look like in your life? Because everything around us in our culture, let me rephrase. Most things around us in our culture, especially around Valentine's Day, deal with the physical. Say, you've got to physically bond with someone. You've got to be relating in that way without considering the emotional, the spiritual, and the relational bond that needs to happen, which are the things that are going to grow love. They're the things that love is going to be founded on. And it's going to anchor what you have. So the key, you want to know how to fall in love? The key to falling in love is balance. The key to falling in love, if you want to know if what you have is love, if you want to know how to fall in love, make sure that there is the balance of emotional bonding, relational bonding, and spiritual bonding in your life. In that relationship, let those three things be what you focus on, be what you're committed to, be what you're accountable for, and love is what's going to come out of that. If the relationship is out of balance and the physical becomes the priority, the physical becomes the thing that you spend all your time thinking about and doing and all of that, you're going to fall into all kinds of things, but it won't be love. You'll fall into lust. You'll fall into insecurity. You'll fall into heartbreak. You'll fall into disappointment. You'll fall into confusion going, what happened? And I can tell you 100% of the time that somewhere there was an imbalance. That the emotional, relational, or spiritual bonding was not what it needed to be for there to be love. And again, or let me just say that I'm not imagining two perfect people. All right, you get two perfect people and they do this perfectly and they'll have a perfect relationship. No, I'm talking about broken, messed up people who are committed to a balance in their relationship to make sure that the emotional, relational, and spiritual are not kind of pushed off to the side for the ease of the physical. 2 Corinthians says this, don't team up with those who are unbelievers. How can righteousness be a partner with wickedness? So here, if you're asking, well, what's balance? What does this look like? How do I make sure that I get into a balanced relationship? How can light live with darkness? What harmony can there be between Christ and the devil? How can a believer be a partner with an unbeliever? And what union can there be between God's temple and idols? For we are the temple of the living God. So here, as you consider a relationship, if you're here tonight and you are not a believer, if you would say, yeah, I am not a Christian, I don't know what all of that means yet, I don't pretend to be a Christian, I'm not there. Let me first say I'm so glad you're here. That this is a great place for you to be. And let me say that what you're going to hear tonight is based on a faith that we cannot be relationally what we need to be. Whether you're a Christian or a non-Christian, what Christians believe is we can't do it on our own. What Christians believe is that we are broken, we are messed up, and we need someone better than us to fix us, to redeem us, to heal the stuff that we break. And we depend on Jesus Christ to do that. If you're here tonight and you are a Christian, you have put your faith in Jesus, and you are inviting him to lead your life, then this is what we are called to. This is what God would say to us and say, you want love in your life? You want a good love life? You want healthy relationships? This is how this happens. And the first thing, the primary thing that he says is, it can't be uneven. You can't say, I'm going to follow Christ, and then jump into a relationship with someone where that's not their priority. Of course it's not going to be their priority. They don't have that relationship with Christ. And missionary dating doesn't work. So we are told right off the bat, make sure it's not uneven. And again, not that you're both in the exact same place in life and you have the same struggles or the same victories, but that your pursuit is even. That when you get into a relationship, it is with someone who is going to pursue relational, emotional, and spiritual bonding. In particular, the spiritual bonding of chasing Jesus. When we are unequally teamed up with somebody, it's then that we fall into having the wrong things in common. Because how could we have the same things in common? It's sort of like this. You know, the last part there says, for we are the temple of the living God. Over the last few weeks, we've been talking about the Holy Spirit and the Spirit of God living in those who would put their faith in Jesus. You are the place where God lives, inside you. But how do you view yourself? Because depending on how you view yourself will determine what kinds of things you allow into your life. How you view yourself will determine what kinds of people you allow into your life. Are they going to be people that you are equal with, that you have the common pursuit? Or is it going to be someone who's chasing things that are the opposite of what you should be chasing? When I was a little kid, I remember this. I have a set of grandparents who live down at the beach, have a nice house, and my grandpa was a rules grandpa. He's the one who taught me all like the dinner manners and, don't put your elbows on the table. He'd stab you with a fork, in the elbows and his house was very nice. He had light-colored carpet and light-colored furniture, sort of the opposite you should have when children are around, right? And I remember one time I was young, I was 7 or 8, and I came walking in the house from the backyard, and I had dog poop on my feet. I knew I had dog poop on my feet, but I needed to tell somebody I had dog poop on my feet. So I come walking into the house. I'm like, Grandpa, Nanny, Grandpa, Nanny. I walk in the room, trailing my, And I walk in the room, and my grandpa, who's about this tall, has a very loud voice, goes, "Stop right there!" I'm like, "Ugh!" There was suddenly more poop. And I stood there, frozen. And he, in an urgent way, encouraged me to leave his house immediately. And scooped me up and carried me out the door and sort of tossed me onto the porch out back. Oh my God. Now, why did he do that? Because he recognized what was happening to his house. He cared about his house. And he knew not only was this going to leave a mark, not only was it going to destroy something he valued, it was also going to leave a stink that was going to linger, and it was going to be something they'd have to get air fresheners and clean everything up. He recognized right there, because of what he valued, that what I was bringing into the house was not what should be there. If we forget that we are God's treasured possession, we'll let anybody walk into our heart with whatever junk they're trailing behind them, and it's going to leave a mark. it's going to destroy what you value. It's going to leave a stink that isn't just going to be something you can get over. It's going to be something, oh, it'll be fine tomorrow. It's going to linger. And it's going to take redemption to get rid of it. And the wonderful truth of God is that he can redeem anything. So whether or not you have already let someone track poop into your heart, God can redeem anything. But why would we invite that in? And one of the reasons we do that is because we forget that we are God's treasure. We forget that God has a plan for you. God has a plan for your relationships. And one of the things that I remember being in high school and hearing this talk and thinking to myself, man, but if I limit who I date, who I'll go out with, to like people that are pursuing Jesus like I am, that's going to really narrow the field. That's really going to, like, the selection is going to be much less. And to that, God would say, don't forget who you are. You're my treasure. You are valuable. I made you. I created you. I designed you. I have a purpose for you. And he does not want anyone or anything to come in and taint what he has designed for you. He does not want you to have to suffer through destruction. He does not want you to have to heal from a broken heart. He does not want you to have regret. He wants you as he designed you. He wants your relationships as he designed it to be. But we can mess that up when we forget who we are. And when we start viewing ourselves as, oh, well, yeah, he's good enough. Yeah, she's pretty. So that's the biggest criteria. So I'll just go with that. How do you view yourself? Who do you consider yourself to be? Because God says you're his treasure. And he has a design and a plan for you. And he doesn't want anything to mess that up. So, what do? If the field is narrowed, that means we're going to be approached with all kinds of other things. There are going to be all kinds of opportunities that every single one of you will have in your life when it comes to a romantic relationship. And if we are serious about going, I want only God's best. I want whatever God has for me. I don't want to get lost in the physical. I want the emotional, the relational, and the spiritual bonding to be epic. What do? Well, God speaks to that too. Run from anything that stimulates youthful lusts. And it's interesting here that it doesn't just say anything that stimulates lust. See, you guys want to know if the Bible is practical? You want to know if the Bible is relatable to you? Youthful lusts? It's identifying, this is when we start to discover these things. This is when we start to value things. This is when we start to compromise and say, oh, well, that'll be good enough. Oh, well, I guess I'll have to accept this. I don't want to be an unmarried 20-year-old, and so I'll just, accept whoever will accept me. And so here it's saying, run from anything that stimulates that youthful lust. That desire for, I want to feel love, or I want to experience love, and I want to experience the physical stuff, and I'm just gonna go for it. Instead, pursue righteous living, faithfulness, love, and peace. And look at this. I love this. Enjoy the companionship of those who call on the Lord with pure hearts. What does a healthy relationship look like? That. Where you and the other person are agreed that you go, you know what? We're not going to pursue the youthful stuff that's just so easy to give into and is going to get distracting, is going to mess us up. But when you and the person that you're committed to, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, are going, you know what? We want to be righteous. We want to be right before God. We don't want to be tracking stuff into our hearts that are going to mess up the design for the relationship that God has for us. We want to have faithfulness. We want to experience real love. We're going to call on God, invite God to be the center of our relationship. And I will challenge you, because I hope you guys know I love you and that I want God's very best for you. So I will challenge those of you in a relationship right now, or those of you pursuing a relationship, desiring a relationship. How does it look? Is it this? Is this what you're going to find in that relationship? Is this what you've been pursuing in that relationship? And I'll leave it there with you. If our relationships are out of balance, we won't be able to run. See, it says run from anything that stimulates youthful lust. Anything that is going to track poop in the house. Run from it. But if you are partnered with somebody where that is not what they're wanting to do, where that's not their pursuit, it's going to be tilted this way. And you're going to be trying to run away, and you're not going to be able to. Because you're going to be running against the way the relationship is tilted because you've accepted that. And you're not going to be able to run away. This is where some of the physical stuff comes in. We are physical beings. So I don't want to stand here and talk or make you feel like if you're a Christian, you don't have those physical temptations. You don't have those emotions. You don't have that need for physical touch. And you don't have to. So just accept Jesus. Pray to the Lord. Wear a cross necklace. And you won't have to struggle with any of these things. We are physical beings. You know why? Who made us physical beings? God. God designed us to be physical. You know why? Because in a marriage, He wants that husband and wife to be absolutely intimate. He wants them to be absolutely physical a lot. He designed us to be physical. But the way He designed it, He calls us to wait till marriage. So what do we do until marriage? We develop the emotional, the relational, and the spiritual bonding. That is what dating's for. That is what our relationships should be about. Trust me, the physical stuff when you're married will work itself out. Let me introduce you to my 3 children. Right? We get into this mindset of, no, the physical's the most important, the physical's the most important. We get into this mindset where the physical is most important, but let me say this. When we begin to prioritize the physical, it quickly takes priority. Because holding hands for the first time is really exciting. I remember holding hands. It was a long time ago when I held my girlfriend's hand. Holding hands is exciting for a while. And then it's like, wow, her hands are kind of sweaty. Oh, and then you start to play around with it. You're like holding hands and you like make little fart sounds. And she's like, stop it, that's gross, right? Holding hands is exciting for a while. So then we go, okay, well, we're gonna watch a movie and we're gonna snuggle. We're gonna snuggle. So you begin to snuggle, and at first, he's holding you, and you're like leaned up against his armpit, and it happens, it. And that's exciting for a while. And here's what I'm saying, is that this can so easily become the focal point that we begin to chase the physical because we are physical beings. We were meant to respond to the physical. God designed us that way. But in that design, he also put limits, and that's what we hate. We don't want there to be limits. We want, all of us, every one of us, for our whole lives, we will want what feels good. When we're hungry, we're going to want to eat till we're full. When we're hot, we're going to want to cool off so we can feel good. When we're cold, we will always want to satisfy the physical. We were designed to be physical. That is why in our relationships, God says, whoa, there's limits. And the limit that he has put on our relationships so that there can be love is develop the relational, the emotional, and the spiritual bonds in your relationship. Do not give in to the physical stuff, which is going to feel good. It will always feel good, and you will never, ever be able to satisfy it. So God says, once you are married, no limits. You are committed to your relationship, to your husband, to your wife, and within that bond of marriage, no limits. But leading up to that is the developing of our spiritual, our emotional, and our relational bonds. How are you doing with that? How much of a priority is that in your life? Because guess what? Many times, and I told you that I've, been, when I was in high school, I dated girls that had no interest in God, Jesus wasn't a priority to them. It wasn't something, and it was so easy to gauge the depth of our relationship on the physical. To gauge how in love we were with the kissing and the hugging and the snuggling. It was so, all of a sudden that became the metric. That became what I measured the health of a relationship on, was the physical. And when that becomes our measure, well, we want to try and keep fulfilling that. Here's what God calls us to. Don't just pretend to love others. Put this in the context of a relationship. Don't just pretend to love your boyfriend. Don't just pretend to love your girlfriend. Really love them. Hate what's wrong. Hold tight to what's good. Love each other with genuine affection and take delight in what? Honoring each other. Take delight in honoring each other. When you allow the physical to dominate your relationship, it is not genuine love. That is not the measure of love. What it's the measure of is your hormones. That's what you're measuring. That's what you're displaying. When you manipulate to get your way, oh, come on, it's no big deal. Come on, well, if you love me, you are not honoring each other. When you give in to temptation and go against what God has designed for you and his plan for your relationship, you are not holding tightly to the things that are good. It's not good for you. God's not telling you that there's limits just because he wants to take all your fun away. He's saying, I have life for you. And when you give into those temptations to make the physical the priority, you are not holding tightly to what's good. God's going, I have what's good. And it's in the emotional, relational, and spiritual bonding that needs to happen if you're really serious about this relationship. If you're really serious about falling in love, if you really want to meet the love of your life and stay with the love of your life, how committed to that are you? When you're not able to be yourself, when you're so focused on trying to impress somebody or trying to be the person that they want you to be or that you think they want you to be, When you look at this, that affection isn't genuine. You're not even giving them the chance to genuinely love you because they're not loving the real you because you're so wrapped up in, oh, who do I have to be? What do I have to do? Don't just pretend to love each other. Really do it. Hate what's wrong. Hold tightly to what's good. Love each other with genuine affection and take delight in honoring each other. That you would look at that relationship and go, you know what? I want nothing but God's best for us. So I'm going to stick within limits. I'm going to honor you by being accountable. I'm going to honor you by allowing you to shut me down. I'm going to honor you by telling you to stop. I'm going to insist that we get really, really bonded emotionally, spiritually, and relationally. In August, Laura and I will be married 20 years, which, that's pretty good. In August, I will have been married for as long as I wasn't married. Think about that. So, and let me tell you this. And this isn't bragging for the sake of bragging, like, ooh, aren't I cool? But I want to point some things out. When Laura and I got married, I married my best friend. And you hear that, right? Right, yeah. You see it on cards like, today I married my best friend. In fact, on our wedding programs, it said, today I married my best friend. But here's what I mean by that. I married my best friend. Because when you look back at what we started with tonight, when I was describing the relational bonding, where we just enjoyed being together. We had fun together. We had common interests. We had some different interests, but we were bonded together relationally. We were bonded together emotionally. There was nothing that I couldn't tell Laura. There was nothing that I couldn't confess to her. There was nothing that a struggle that I couldn't share with her, that she would respond and she would encourage me, and the same went for her. We would go in my car up to the top of one of the streets in Rancho, and we would pray together intentionally. There were lots of other things that many other couples were doing at the top of these streets. Laura and I, very intentionally, and we held each other accountable to this. We would go up there and we would pray because we were desperate. If this relationship was going to end in marriage, if we were going to actually be in love, if we were going to find our soulmate, we had to bond spiritually. We had to commit our relationship to God. Do we do that perfectly? No. But that's why we're called to be teamed up with someone equal. Because when I'm failing, my spouse, the one I love, is there to hold me up. When I'm struggling in an area and I don't know what to do, I'm not in a relationship where the only thing that the other person can do for me is just make out with me. It's all just physical. It's like, oh, well, I really need somebody to support me, to walk with me, to love me. And all they can do is be really cute. And yet people enter into those relationships all the time. Oh, well, he's really cute. That's good enough for me. And it's not going to be good enough. You're going to end up in a place not in love. And when you get to that place where you realize it's not love, when you realize it's not God's best for you, that's where the heartbreak comes. Because what have you given up to that point before you've realized that? When Laura and I got married, I can honestly say, without it being cliche, she was my best friend. Because there was balance in our relationship. You saw that guy on the bike in the beginning. When one little thing gets out of balance, what happens? He falls down. There's another 2 minutes of that video of like the outtakes of them making that. And that's what it is. And you see how important things being just like they were supposed to be, designed to be, how important that is. And you guys, in our relationships, this is crucial. And I want to challenge you, like I said in the beginning, for those of you that are in a relationship right now, those of you that wish you were in a relationship right now and you're pursuing that and you're trying to figure out what you need to do to get someone to love you, or whether you're here tonight and you're like, yeah, relationships are down the road. I'm not interested in it. I don't need it. This is something that we need to be open and invite God to prepare our hearts for. Because it's going to be so easy to make our relationships about the physical, to make our relationships about what feels good. And I want you to remember this tonight. As you are considering someone to be your boyfriend, as you're considering somebody to be your girlfriend, is she someone that you should be teaming up with? Are you going to be able to bond with them emotionally, relationally, and spiritually? If the answer to any of those is no, don't be in relationship with them. And I need to preface this because I don't want you to go home and say, just so I could have a boyfriend. But hear this. I think there's a lot of value in dating. When we date, we discover what we want in a relationship. When we date, we discover who we become in a relationship. But here is my limit. I think that there is value in dating in balance. Meaning, you're bonding relationally, emotionally, and spiritually. No dating relationship ever broke apart because of a lack of physical bonding. Unless it was an unhealthy relationship that wasn't going to end in love anyway. So you may be going like, well, can I have a boyfriend? Can I have a girlfriend? Well, consider the way that you could be committed to someone. You could be exclusively committed to someone. But your focus is bonding relationally, emotionally, and spiritually, and you keep that limit. You agree on that. You come to a place where you go, this is what's going to lead us to love. And are you willing to do that, believing that you are God's treasure? That He designed you for relationship. He designed you with a purpose. And He doesn't want anything to mess that up. So God, I pray over every person in this room. Those who are single, those who are dating, those who are married. And God, I pray that you would make this a reality in our lives, that we would seek relationships that would be exactly according to your will. That we would not sacrifice the bonding that you have designed us for because we want to jump right to what feels good. I pray for the dating relationships in this room that you would stir their hearts to your call. And God, the decisions would be made based on what you're leading them to. And if the relationship is not what you have for them, God, that there would be the courage to end those relationships. God, that if it is a relationship that you are blessing, that you would affirm in their hearts how you're bringing them together and hold them accountable and keep them accountable and send people into their lives to walk with them. God, I pray for those in this room who are heartbroken, who have been disappointed, who have been violated, who have wondered what's going wrong and doubting who they are. I pray, Lord, that you would remind them who they are in you, that they are your treasure, and that you have a purpose and a plan for them, and help them to be willing to wait for that plan. God, we want to live for you. We want to know you, and we want our relationships to produce love. God, we want to be in love, but we want it to be real love, and so we ask you to do that work in us. In Jesus' name, amen. Love you guys. Have a good night.